It's Tuesday, July 25th, 2023, and this is episode 288 of You Can Bet on That. Hi, everybody. Welcome to You Can Bet on That, a podcast for the recreational gambler. I'm Mark Duvall.
And I'm Dr. Mike.
Well, sorry we're a little bit late this time, and for once, it's my fault. I was at Comic-Con over the weekend, and so you and I just did not have time to record, so we're a day late here.
Yeah, how was Comic-Con?
Well, it was kind of muted, I guess would be the best word, because of the writers and actors strikes.
Right.
So almost all of the movie and TV panels were canceled. There was really nothing big in Hall H as a result. Because a lot of that in Hall H, it's, these celebrities show up and woo, everybody's excited to see them.
Right.
And there were hardly any, at least Hollywood celebrities there, just because of the strikes. So, I mean, we still had fun. There's still stuff to do. And it certainly was more of a comic con, than anything else. There was, I went to several comic book panels. So, yeah, I guess that's the best way to say it. Disappointing if you were, looking to see celebrities or information on TV and movies. But, still a big fun event.
I read an article where somebody from a studio got permission to continue their panel, and they had to get permission from the Screen Actors Guild or something. They had got permission. It was something, no celebrities. It was just some.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, that's what happens, right? When
it's kind of unfortunate for say a Comic-Con person came from overseas that wanted to see the whole show for the first time.
Yeah. Just bad timing, and hopefully next year, by next year, I would hope everything's resolved and, be more like the...
If not, there's going to be a lot of movie theaters out of business.
Yep. And Yep, I'll be watching reruns.
Right.
All right, well, let's get going with the show. So on last episode, listener Luke said that he had heard from a poker pro when he was playing the World Series of Poker there, that if you're 7 stars with Caesars and you ask for 100 times odds on craps at the Cromwell, they'll let you have it. Now, remember, the Cromwell used to have 100 times odds. That was a big selling point for them on the Strip. And then a while back, they switched to the 3, 4, 5 times odds, which is standard for the Strip. But that if you're 7 stars, you can ask, and they'll say, okay, we'll grandfather you into the 100 times odds. Well, we got an email from Derek shortly after they changed it from 100 times odds. I asked when it changed, and the pit boss told me that I can talk to my host and could be grandfathered in if they approve it. At the time, I was only Diamond Elite. I'm 7 stars now, but never play those type of odds, so never tried. So maybe a little more information there. Maybe you don't have to be 7 stars. Maybe it's a matter of asking and then getting a host that's sympathetic or takes a look at your play or just decides, okay, sure. And they'll give you the 100 times odds. So again, we still haven't heard of anybody actually trying it, but apparently it is available under certain circumstances.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I wonder if you could say to the pit boss, hey, I'd like 10 times odds.
See, that's an interesting point because most people will not take advantage of the 100 times, but maybe they do want to go more than the 3, 4, 5 times. So that's good. How would you phrase it? Hey, you used to have 100 times odds, right? Do you think, I could get that deal? And maybe don't say anything that, I don't plan on going up to the 100 times. I don't know.
Right.
You might have to finesse it, but yeah.
Maybe they'd say, well, you've got to take it then. We're not going to, I mean, they don't want someone else coming up to the table. Hey, this guy's got 20 times odds. Why can't I?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So maybe they say, if you take odds and you got to take 100. So no, if anyone complains, we say, well, it's 100 times odds if you want.
Yeah.
Or otherwise 3, 4, 5, otherwise you could ask for full 5 times.
Yeah,
A lot of people would like that.
Yeah, that's
10 times, 20 times.
Yeah. Again, if anybody tries it or tries some variation of it, let us know.
Yeah, I'd really be interested in that.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, you could ask other casinos, hey, you used to have, 5 times odds or you used to have 10 times odds.
What other casino would be that? I mean, you'd be lying if you said that about virtually any other casino.
Well, some of them some had 20.
Who?
And went to 10.
I need some. If you're talking about Las Vegas. No, I'm talking about Las Vegas, Dr. Mike.
No, I'm talking about like Diamond Joe.
Now I'm not even listening to you anymore. It's just not even interesting to me anymore.
Why is that?
Just because, Las Vegas Strip is notorious for only having 3, 4, 5 times odds. Yeah. Other places you go, you're getting 10 times odds, like you said at Diamond Joe Worth.
Yeah.
So
I guess that I know it's not the same owner now, but Binion's used to have 100 times.
Yeah, good luck there. Yeah. They'll laugh in your face. Right?
They restrict you on how you touch the dice.
Yeah, I know. God. Oh, the olden days.
Yeah.
Well, we also got an email from listener Raina. Raina pointed us to an article from KTNV TV in Las Vegas, and I'll put a link to the article in the show notes, about an increase in cases of people's belongings being stolen from hotel rooms while they slept. So not just when you're gone, but actually when you're in the room sleeping. These thieves have been able to get past the deadbolts even to get access to the rooms. So it's kind of scary. So just, word of advice, when you're not in your room, certainly be sure to lock up your valuables in the safe. Now, I know some of these safes are pretty small, right? And you can only get a few things in there. Sometimes it's hard for me to even get my laptop in there. But if you're able to, certainly try to put stuff in the safe. And then when you are in the room sleeping, consider still keeping your valuables in the safe. And if you're in the room that has one, be sure to engage that swing bar door guard. It's not the deadbolt. But you've seen them in hotel rooms, right, Dr. Mike? It's kind of like this little bar that you slide across there.
Yeah, but my daughter was looking at something on TikTok, I believe it was, and she saw how people can get around those pretty easily, too.
Scary, yeah.
It was something about how a professional can break into your room very easily. And, of course, they're selling something to stop that. Devices that you can buy, portable, that you can take when you travel to have another form of security on your door that, maybe a criminal didn't know about or wasn't aware of.
Or just can't get past.
Yeah, or can't get past. So she says she's buying one because she's going to be traveling soon and she wants one for her hotel room. I said, hey, that's a great idea. Another form of security is fine.
Yeah, you don't remember specifically what it was?
No, but I will find out from her.
Okay, well, there are probably different products. If you just Google, portable hotel room lock, something like that, it would probably come
right.
up,
Yeah, and so I think a lot of people now, that's become a thing where they carry that with them when they travel. I'm sure plenty of our listeners who are travelers know about that.
Yeah, and there are other things too. Maybe putting a bag of dog poop, right in front of the door so that the thief steps in that. Maybe set it on fire too before you go to bed.
Well, how about this? How about just don't go to bed?
Yeah, it is kind of crazy if we're talking about gambling trips.
Yeah, it's just, if you're on a gambling trip, just stay up all night.
Yeah, that's not bad. And then again, you won't be in the room, so they'll probably break in. But if your valuables are in the safe, you're good.
I know that in the, nicer hotels, I guess I'll say, they have guards by the elevators, right?
Sure.
From dark till morning to check people's key as they go up. So you have to have a key.
That's certainly good security. It's just that in these cases, gosh, if they're getting into hotel rooms, you almost think maybe they have some kind of master key like housekeeping does. So maybe it's an inside job. I'm not making any accusations here. But, a guard at the elevator is not going to protect you against somebody who works there.
Well, and my point was the guards at the elevator, they just glance at a key. Well,
for the most part, it depends on the property, but a lot of times it is a pretty quick glance. Yeah.
Glance, right. And, if you've stayed there before, you can just keep the key when you leave. I don't know how good a security that is. I've never had anyone actually take my key and see if it's a valid key.
No.
Or look at ID or anything like that.
And,
and when I stayed at IP, when we were in Biloxi, there was one of those little podiums right by the elevator. There was never anyone on it the whole time I was there.
Yeah.
Not at night, day, nothing. I mean, so they obviously weren't using it.
Well, and we were at Beau Rivage, in Biloxi, we actually had to scan our key in the elevator to be able to press the button for our floor. It wouldn't even take unless you scan. So,
right. But usually
there are more
that's for certain floors.
Right. Yeah, it's not for everybody. Yeah.
I mean, I had to scan mine at IP too to get to my floor.
Okay.
But it was only the top 2 floors that you had to do that.
Yeah. So again, be careful. That's the word. Thank you, Raina, for pointing us to that article.
Well, that's kind of the way of the world now, right?
Now, Dr. Mike, that's the way of the world it's always been. All right?
Well,
it's no different now. Just there's different technology. That's it.
No, it seems like the world is unsafer to me, Mark.
Oh, I'm sure it does seem like it's unsafer to you. But trust me, it's just as unsafe as it always was.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Did you ride your bike when you were a kid to like school or 7-Eleven or just around in your neighborhood? Or
Sure.
Yeah. When you were like 8 years old?
Yeah.
So would you let your 7 or 8 year old ride your bike around now?
No, but not because things have changed, just because we know better. There are a lot.
You think our parents didn't know better?
Yeah, they didn't know better. They didn't make us wear helmets. They let us do all those things. There are a lot of dead kids from the 60s and 70s, Dr. Mike. All right?
Okay. All right. Get off your soapbox.
All right.
I'm going to believe what I believe. I think the world's more dangerous.
All right. Let's move on by saying, hey, thanks to everyone who's been clicking through our Amazon link. Remember, whenever you're going to buy something through Amazon, please go to our page first, youcanbetonthat.com, and click through our Amazon link towards the top of the page. All right, let's move on to our voicemails. First up is Dr. Brendan.
Hello, Mark and Dr. Mike. It's Dr. Brendan calling you again from Indianapolis. I wanted to give you a little trip report of my gambling and drinking trip out west. We, with a couple buddies, we went out to Portland, Oregon, and across the border in Washington is Illinois, which I'm sure Mike will love the name of that particular casino because it's not spelled out pronounced at all. That was a pretty fun casino. They don't have any video poker, so I was really looking forward to maybe hitting another Royal Flush before you guys, but instead, we found something even more surprising. We found a $5 3-2 blackjack table. And let me tell you, we've been kind of ripping on blackjack lately, but when you have the right group of people at a table, blackjack can be an absolute blast and just reminds you why you fell in love with gambling in the first place. We had an older dealer. He even told us, he's like, yeah, I'm not the fastest dealer they have in the casino. They just put me on the $5 table. I was like, that's exactly what we want. We're going to hang out. We're going to have a couple drinks. And we're going to lose very little money. He dropped quite a few tips from us, and we had quite a few drinks as well, and that was a blast. On the way back from Portland, we decided, me and another guy, that we were going to take maybe a 24-hour layover in Vegas. So we had a count night at Paris. Diamond member with Caesars Entertainment, so they upgraded me to one of their suites, which was the first time I'd ever been upgraded to anything through the Caesars Rewards program. The room was nice. I need to tell you that the renovation that they did over at Bally's, now the Horseshoe, it still looks like Bally's. I'm not going to lie. But the one thing we did find there was $10 face-up high-got poker. $10 on the strip. My buddy had never played high-out ever. I saw that table and I said, dude, we are going to get so drunk. We sat down. I caught him in one hand and I said, just keep doing that. Cocktail waitress came around. We gave her a nice big tip up front. And let me tell you, she was back. I mean, it must have been like maybe 2 hands. And we were getting another drink every single time. Horseshoe? Yeah. You want a good cocktail? You can get your cocktails pretty quick there. Once again, I think it all depends what blackjack table you end up at and who you're playing with. We had an awesome time at Ellis Island while we were there. The next morning, we sat down with a couple of guys from San Diego. We played $5 3-2 blackjack once again, and we sat there for 5 hours. And these guys from San Diego were fantastic. We got done with that. They comped us barbecue at their little restaurant there at Ellis Island, and yeah, it's just a rare experience when you meet people who want to enjoy the game like you. So that's it. That was our trip out to Vegas. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Brendan. Yeah, that is true. If you We do kind of dump on blackjack, and mainly it's because you run the risk of being on a table with somebody who's really grumpy or, complains about how you play. But if you take over a table, if it's all your friends, or you're at a table with sort of like-minded gamblers, oh yeah, it can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, but it's hard to find, like on weekends, completely empty tables.
That's the thing, right? It is hard, especially at low limits.
Right.
That is good news, though, about $10 pie gow on the strip there at Horseshoe. Yeah, I'm very surprised, pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. I wonder what day of the week that was.
Probably midweek, but still.
Yeah, it'd have to be. But yeah, that's good. If you have a $10 pie gow table and it's empty and all your buddies are on it, you'd stay there forever.
Yep.
I wouldn't give up my seat.
Yeah, Illini Casino in Washington State. It's when you see it written, it looks like Illini, right? It's Ilani, but it's pronounced Illini.
Or Illini.
Yeah, Ilani. Yeah, you'd have trouble. Unless somebody told you how to pronounce it, you probably wouldn't be able to. Washington State gambling is strange because even though they have table games, even though they have some casinos with craps and blackjack, their machines are Class 2 machines. So that means they're slot machines. They're not true slot machines. They're like lottery machines. And they don't have video poker. There are some places where they have Class 2 video poker that, again, are just like lottery machines. No video poker in Washington State.
Huh.
So who knows how they came up with that, but there you go. All right, next call.
Hey, guys, it's Rev Dan from Tulsa. I wanted to give a trip report from my wife and I's recent trip to the M Resort in Henderson. I've been to Vegas many times, but this was the first time that I've actually stayed outside of the city. The property was really well maintained and modern. They had $10 craps with up to 5 times odds, $10 blackjack, and $15 pie gow. All the blackjack tables were 3 to 2, and I would say for this reason alone, it's worth spending time if you're a gambler. And they gave my wife and I each $25 food vouchers for signing up for their rewards program, which was a nice touch. And their sportsbook was really generous with drink tickets. And the first day I placed, I think, $300 worth of bets, and I asked for a drink ticket, and they gave me 3 drink tickets. And then the next day I placed $200 worth of bets, and they gave me 5 drink tickets. So I'm just curious, how do sportsbooks typically manage this? Is it like 1 drink ticket for a certain amount per bet? And I just wondered if maybe they were being more generous since it's not a popular season for sports betting, and maybe had it been March Madness, they wouldn't have been so generous. I had a ton of fun playing craps. I don't normally play much because the casinos I said are usually $15 or $25 minimums, and I just can't stomach how quickly you can lose at those rates. But the $10 minimum was really nice. So I played probably for 6 hours on the first day, and while it was ultimately a losing session, I was thrilled to get to play for so long. There were several smalls and talls were hit, and we were really close on the all several times. One frustrating thing happened when this one lady was just a 12 away from the all, and she probably rolled another 10 times before rolling a 7 and never did hit the 12. But I kid you not, on her very next roll, the first thing she rolled was a 12, and she hit 2 more on that roll. I did have a winning session at pie gow and had one hand where my first 4 cards were the joker and 3 aces. That made looking at the next 3 cards pretty exciting, but unfortunately didn't hit the 5 aces, but 4 wasn't bad. Had a good up and down crap session the next day, and again, just had a lot of fun. Overall loss, but was glad to get to play for so long without huge swings. I'm curious, how do the pit bosses rate craps players? Could you maybe shed a little light on that for me? Is it based on how much you start with on a roll, or what you have at the end of the roll, or does it just kind of depend on what's out there when the pit boss is looking? All in all, we had a great trip. The pool was really nice, but since it was 115 degrees, we didn't spend very much time there. We did visit the spa, and while that's not typically my thing, it was enjoyable for an hour or so. We did eat at their fancy steakhouse, and I would say that it was just so-so. They had a great bar by the Sportsbook that had good bar food, nachos, wings, that kind of stuff. Really would recommend that. All in all, a great trip, and I definitely would recommend it. I love what you guys are doing, and hope you have a great week.
All right. Well, thanks.
All right.
Yeah, rating craps players, the pit, it really will depend on when the pit is looking at what you're betting. A lot of times that'll happen when you first buy in and you make your first bets. So we've recommended to maybe bet a little bit more than you normally do, just right at the beginning, and maybe you'll get a good rating. Or if you see that the pit is suddenly coming over to start to look, make your bets right then, maybe, bet a little bit more. But it is based on what they see It is subjective. Certainly, you can ask either at the end or even during your session, hey, what do you have me rated at? And they will tell you what they feel you're risking at any point. They don't count odds because there's no house edge on the odds. But they may tell you, oh, I've got you down for $50. I've got you down for $100. And if you feel that maybe that's not correct, you could ask, well, actually I've got 120 out there or 150, you think you could rim me at that? And the worst they can do is say no. So, but a lot of it's voodoo too. And we've seen a lot of variation depending on the casino and the staff and what have you.
Yeah, to stand up for them a little bit, it is kind of difficult to, when people change their bets a lot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
To rate what they're betting. Now, if a guy comes in like me and bets the same amount every time, then it's pretty obvious they put it in once and they're done. But and then it just goes down to how much time you're there,
yes.
or how many rolls on those casinos that count rolls.
Yeah.
But for somebody who, say, is just, this roll he bets the hard ways and the next roll he doesn't, and then this roll he puts out a bunch of center bets or just changing it up all the time, it's kind of hard to rate. How much do you have out there on average?
Yeah, definitely. So they're just human. And, maybe they're giving you more than you deserve, less than you deserve. It's going to depend on a lot of factors. And sort of along those same lines, okay, what does it take for sports books to give you drink vouchers? That's going to vary widely too, especially, depending on the casino, the time of day, how many people are there in the book, that kind of thing. Some casinos are very generous, just handing them out like they're dealing a deck of cards. And others are pretty tight, say, oh, gosh, all you've done is bet $100. Well, I guess I can give you one drink ticket. Again, there are too many factors involved. We can't tell you that there's a certain formula that they all use.
Yeah, he brought up a good point about when there's not a lot going on. Like now, it's baseball basically, right? And some soccer. So you don't have a lot of people in the sports book. A lot of people don't like to bet on baseball. And so they're more likely they're going to give you a bunch of tickets. And they want to keep you there.
That could be, right? There are some casinos that might think that way. So, But again, we can't give you definitive. He was talking about that one shooter that all she needed was a 12, which is pretty common for the all.
Yes.
And then she, sevened out, and then the next time she got the dice, her first two rolls were a 12. What you got to do, and we've said this many times on the show, is if there was a certain number they needed and then there's a 7 out, you've got to hop that number, on the very next roll. Same with if there was a point. Oh, the point was 9, you didn't make a 9, a 7. You got to hop that 9 on that next roll. That's just smart gambling.
It's smart gambling, especially if it's a 12. Then, you have a 1 in 36 chance of hitting it. So when you do hit it, you look like a genius.
That's right. 1 in 36, Mike. Oh, come on. The dice gods are looking down on you. I think it's more like 1 in 10.
Well, some people would say it's 1 in 1.
Yeah, I'm going to show you.
It's a guaranteed.
All right, next call.
Hey, guys. Love the show. I just started listening. I just had a response to one of your questions of bets on the craps table that pay better than identical bets. And I'm surprised you didn't mention pudding with odds. Usually it's not relevant, at least in Vegas with their 3, 4, 5X. But here in Des Plaines, Illinois, at Rivers Casino, they have 100X odds. And they have table minimums as low as $5 on weekday mornings. So I'll see people betting, $120 place bets. And I'm like, bro, you could just put 5 and put 115 on top, and you just instantly get paid better. I guess the only downside is, you can't take the contract part of that bet away, but for all intents and purposes, it's pretty much the same bet. So yeah, that's an interesting corner case. And then I just want to also give my own crap story that was pretty crazy, where I was like, okay, I'm just going to bet the don't pass and just kind of grind out some points, and I'll try a don't strategy. And I put $5 on the make them all just in case, not expecting to actually hit it. And this guy, the first shooter, he rolls so long and picks off so many points that I lose $1,200 just doing like $10 lay 50, $10 lay 75, $10 lay 100, depending on the point. He knocks me all the way down to $0 from my $1,000 buy-in, and then he hits the all, and I get all my money back. So that was a pretty great story. Of course, if I was just on the light side, it would have been a lot better story, but it was still nice to end with the making them all. And then a similar thing happened where I only bought in $100 and I just kind of played with it until I was down to my last 20. And so I'm like, okay, 15 on the line, 5 on the all bet. I didn't even have any money for odds or anything. And lo and behold, this guy rolled so long that I win a pass line. So now I got $30 and I can do another pass line. And slowly I'm building up this place bet, 6, then 8, then 9. And then all of a sudden he hits the all and they just shove $875 in chips in front of me. And I'm like, I totally forgot I had that bet. It was so long ago. Wasn't even paying attention to that $5 all bet. So that's my story with the old tall small. My slot machine story that was great was I walked up to a Rich Little Piggies game once, saw that had a lot of free games and the major was at 1,000, did one spin, triggered all 3 pins, got the major, $1,400 hand pay. That was cool. It was weird though. The slot attendant made me spin again, so I lost another $6 even though I didn't want to. So that was
You got cut off there. Yeah, casinos don't like when there's a jackpot winning combination showing on a slot machine because they figure, and probably rightfully so, that gamblers are going to look at that and think, oh, well, that machine just paid off. And it's going to be a long time before it pays off again. Even though that's not true, it is true that customers might think that. So when you hit a big jackpot like that, they tell you, oh, clear that jackpot. Go ahead and spin it one more time. You don't have to do that. They don't really ask you. They kind of tell you to do it. But really, that's your money in there. You don't have to. You can just say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to cash out. Now, yeah, maybe that's a little awkward. But maybe you say, hey, all right, yeah, I'll spin it again if you reimburse me the $6 if I don't win anything on the spin. So it's one of those things where they pressure you into spinning it to clear that off, but you don't have to.
Maybe you could just look at the attendant and say, well, I'm going to leave you a tip for this big jackpot I just hit, but if you make me spin that again, there's no tip.
You could say that. Or you could just say, hey, I'm going to tip you, and it's up to you to use your tip money to clear that jackpot.
To clear that jackpot.
Here's $8.
Oh, yeah, I would like to see the face. Like, what? I don't get a tip if you have to spin again?
And again, don't take it off on the poor slot attendant because that's what they're told to do as well. But
I know.
Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah, it's a great story about him playing the don't and then being able to recoup it all on the features. That's kind of like you, Dr. Mike. You don't play the don't. But the way that you do play, you need a few of those all tall smalls to hit along the way for you to show a profit.
Yeah, it certainly does help.
Yeah.
They just don't hit enough, Mark.
No, they don't.
Somebody leaves the 12. I don't understand it.
It's rough. Well, again, you can always hop it afterwards and make all your money back. Hop it for $500. Guaranteed.
You can't lose at this game.
I am really surprised that we forgot to talk about put bets on our last episode. One of our listeners was asking, what's a bet that you can make that, loses and wins the same, but you get more money for it? Yeah, put bets. When the casino you're at offers 5 times odds or greater, it is often better to make a put bet than a place bet. A put bet is basically a come bet where you're putting your bet directly onto a number instead of letting it go through the come line. So, for example, in the example that he gave, if you make a $120 place 6, that pays $140. However, if you make a bet for the same amount where you put a $5 put bet with $115 odds, so you're still risking $120, if that 6 hits, it pays $143. So there you go. It just pays better.
Yeah, the only problem is put bets are confusing for some people.
It is. There are plenty of dealers who don't know what they are. Even if the casino offers it, we've been there where they don't know.
Yeah, where I've said, do you allow put bets? What are put bets? They don't even know.
Well, and I think you're probably a player who sometimes will be making place or buy bets, even if a put bet would be better, just for the convenience / ease of the dealers, that kind of thing. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, definitely. And also when I've made put bets, I get a lot of people standing next to me. Now, what's that? Now, how does that, I just don't want to answer all the questions.
You don't want to, yeah. And you're going to get rated better on place bets and buy bets than on put bets, right? So
exactly.
Because, you make a $5 put bet with $115 odds, well, you're only getting rated for that $5. So I'm still saying you should make the put bet, but I can understand maybe people not wanting to in certain circumstances.
Yeah, it depends on what your goal is. If you're hoping to rack up some points to pay for that hotel room, well, you're not going to do it making put bets.
Okay, very good. All right. Let's hear from Dennis.
Hey, Dr. Mike and Mark. This is Dennis in West Michigan again with a trip report is long overdue. This is the 50th anniversary of my first Vegas trip where 4 of us drove 45 hours nonstop at 35 cents a gallon bound for the Stardust. We split the 1995 room rate and went directly to the $2.49 buffet. Most tables were $1 back then and drinks were free as the pit boss used his clicker to call for the waitress. I still have a stack of 50-cent chips we got with each blackjack. Some of the slots were in carousels with elevated attendants that would serve the players like a bartender at a circular bar. We bought 3 racks of silver and ignored her attempts to tell us what machine was going to be hot. Then we decided to walk over to the Desert Inn, dodging traffic across Las Vegas Boulevard. There were no crosswalks yet. The Desert Inn was the darkest casino I've ever been in. Lights above the tables, but that's about it. Craps were set up front, close to the entrance. It was easy to picture Sinatra and the Rat Pack sucking down cigars and bourbon, shooting dice after their show. While we walked the strip, we were constantly approached by ladies asking us if we wanted a date. Very flattered at first, we finally figured it out. And then downtown, we saw the giant neon cowboy and loved the Fremont Street intersection where all the lights turned red at the same time so pedestrians could cross in all directions. The Horseshoe was next. Just inside were 3 poker tables that were hosting the 1973 World Series of Poker. I watched from a rail less than 3 feet from the players. Amarillo Slim was sitting close enough I could have touched him. And I'm sure Doyle Brunson was there. I just didn't know who he was. No Sportsbook existed in the casinos yet, but we found a hole-in-the-wall joint filled with heavy smokers studying the racing form. The horse track entries and sporting events were on a giant chalkboard that went the entire length of the room. The juice was a lot higher then because of a government 10% tax on all wagers, but we didn't know any better. And finally, the best job in Las Vegas at the time was the showroom maitre d'. He stood at a podium at the showroom entrance several hours before showtime, waiting to get his palms greased by guests who wanted good seats. We decided to see Lido because the Elvis was $90 a person at the Hilton. We slipped our guy at 20 and sat in the 3rd row. Thanks for this stroll down memory lane, guys. And my question to you is, what changes do you see in Vegas 50 years from now? This again is Dennis in Michigan. Thanks for all you do.
All right. Thanks, Dennis, for the great call. Good nostalgia.
Yeah, I love that call.
Yeah.
I am going to be dreaming that tonight. When we started playing, it was a little after 73, but it was pretty much the same.
Yeah, I'm thinking of that, right? When you could actually, the parking lots were in front of the hotels, right? They had parking garages just like, you're going to the supermarket. And,
right.
Yeah, there certainly were no elevated areas to cross the street.
No.
So, yeah.
No.
Yeah, there's always talk about, the good old days of Las Vegas. And I don't like to fall into that trap. But certainly from a gambling standpoint, yes, things probably were better back then with some very noticeable exceptions, right? The rules now for craps are actually better than they were back in the 70s or when you and I went.
Right.
But Vegas has changed, right? Vegas is more emphasizing an experience and the shows and the food, the restaurants, that kind of thing. So, is it better? Is it worse? Well, it's just different. As far as predictions, gosh, I don't know. I can only think of things personally that are going to be worse because I think there's going to be more automation in gambling. In other words, it'll be harder to find a live game with, live dealers, that kind of thing. I don't see the rules getting any better. Minimums are going to go up. So I don't know. I guess I'm kind of pessimistic in that respect. What do you see, Mike, in the next 50 years?
As far as Las Vegas goes?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I doubt if it'll be there, Mark.
What's going to happen?
I mean, there's going to be casinos everywhere in people's hometowns and stuff.
I understand, but Vegas is very good at reinventing itself, right? That's what we've been talking about.
Well, they're going to have to because from a gambler standpoint, there's going to be casino that you can go to that's in your town or only a small drive away or something. And Vegas will be more like a place where, yeah, they have gambling, but it's more adult entertainment.
Okay, so yeah, you and I are looking
we're looking at it from a gambling standpoint.
Right. And so
gambling won't be the issue there. It'll be more adult entertainment.
So I guess I can agree with you from a gambling point of view that yes, and certainly we love going to Vegas, but Vegas is not what it used to be for us because we have so many more options now. It used to be, oh my gosh, when we were going to go to Vegas, like, oh, here we go, blackjack and craps and slots. It's going to be so much fun. And now, it's because it's so convenient to go to a local place. It's not quite as exciting for us anymore.
No, honestly, it isn't. It's just not the same thrill you get.
Yeah.
And I was laughing too when he said girls walking up to you and saying, "Do you need a date?" I remember Doug Morgan and I, our friend Doug.
Yeah.
We went on a trip, just him and I, and we were walking down the strip. And I mean, girls, hey, guys looking for a date,
Yeah.
And the first thing is we're all flattered like, oh, wow, that's a pretty girl. Well, we figured it out pretty quick, just like Dennis did.
Yeah.
We figured it out pretty quick. But, you don't get that anymore. Now it's all automated.
You don't automated. You don't see it as much walking down the street, I guess, just because there's so much going on the street.
Right.
It's more the kind of thing where you'd be approached inside a casino, I guess, is more likely if you're sitting at the bar.
Maybe, or more approached in a casino and then just flyers everywhere where to call.
That's right. That's the other thing, too. As you mean by automated or the porn slappers out there. That's a form of automation.
A form of automation they didn't have before. Now there's somebody who serves you as opposed to, who solicits you.
Yeah. Well, again, thanks for that call, Dennis.
Yeah, right. I love those old stories.
Yeah. Next call.
Hey, gentlemen, it's Jason from Michigan. Came back from Vegas and wanted to call in with a little bit of a trip report. The first thing is me and the wife figured out it was our 25th trip to Las Vegas, and we kind of chuckled that when we started going out there, we could go out with $300 or $400 for the whole weekend, and we don't know how we did it because now we could spend that in an hour. But somehow, 25 years ago, we made it last. I'm sure everyone can relate to that. But also, we found ourselves in bed at 11 o'clock on a Friday night. And when we started going out there, we would never go to bed, and we'd stay up 3 days in a row, basically. So how things change as we get older. But had a great trip. Started out to El Cortez, which I don't know if everyone knows, but they have a Speakeasy Barbershop. Every time I go out, you do have to have an appointment. They're extremely busy, but that's how I start my trip, with getting a great shave and a good haircut, kind of get refreshed from the plane ride from Michigan, and it kind of sets my trip off in a good mood in the right spot. So the boys up at the El Cortez Speakeasy Barbershop, shout out. They do a great job. Also, we have for all 25 years stayed at the Golden Nugget. They just do a great job. We enjoy the Nugget. If anyone is wondering or debating on staying there, I would say you will be very surprised and happy with your stay there. And lastly, just wanted to run something by you guys. I was playing in slots, hopping around, came across a slot machine that said call attendant. I looked down and someone had left just a $30 ticket in the slot machine. So I cashed it out. I sat it next to me and called the attendant. Finally had someone come over and asked me, what I needed. And I explained to them that the light was on, someone had left their $30, and she looked at me like I had two heads and I was crazy for turning the ticket in. She said, what do you want me to do with it? I said, well, it was my understanding that, it said call attendant, and this is somebody else's money, and maybe you guys can, look on the camera. It's probably not worth it for $30, but I don't want to have them walk back and I have spent it or them question what I did with it. She was still baffled and said, you want me to take this ticket? And I said, yeah, it's not mine. So she took it. Luckily, on my next poll, good karma, I guess, I won $400 on the slot with my own money. I cashed out and walked away. But just wondering what your thoughts were. I think I've heard you guys talk about this in the past where you're supposed to turn these tickets in, but she sure made it seem like I was, should have spent the money, pocketed it, did something with
And you got cut off there. Yeah, depending on the jurisdiction, and we've heard a lot of different things, if you pick up money that's not yours, whether it's actual cash or a chip or a Tito ticket, you could get arrested. You could get in trouble for that because that's not yours. Now, there are a lot of other factors, but a general rule would be to do what Jason did and just say, hey, this isn't mine. Here you go. And maybe the slot attendant just had never come across that before, wasn't familiar with the law or the policy. But yeah,
or she just has never seen a decent person.
That could be. That's probably the most likely thing. Yeah, Dr. Mike. Yeah. First time in her life she's met someone decent. So, yeah, Jason did the right thing and good for you. And, you just got to be careful about that kind of thing.
Yeah, and the karma came back.
Yeah, it worked for him, yeah.
I love that he goes to the Speakeasy Barbershop and gets a haircut and a shave.
Oh, yeah, that is good. You get a nice close shave. It can last for a few days. For me, I don't know about getting a shave in a barbershop only because my beard grows in pretty quickly, so I pretty much have to shave every day. But yeah, getting a nice haircut to start off the trip, it sounds good.
Well, there's certain things in life, Mark, that bring a certain kind of satisfaction, joy, a bunch of emotions combined that make you feel good.
Okay.
And for men, I don't know about other men, but for me anyway, when you're clean shaven, when you first just shave, it feels so good. It's like you cleansed yourself.
Yes.
And a haircut's kind of like that too.
Yep.
It just feels good. Like, I feel revived.
That's why I've said the one thing I do when I'm on a trip, gambling trip, I shave every day. Now, yeah, I've got a beard, but I shave, my neck and my cheeks, that kind of thing to do that.
Right.
Because I like feeling that way. Now, you said no, because you're on vacation. You don't do it.
Yeah, you know what it is I'm too anxious to go and play.
All right.
But yeah, at home I do every day.
Okay.
Because I feel more comfortable.
I didn't want I didn't want you to get caught in a contradiction there because, it does feel good to do that.
Yep.
But when you're on a gambling trip, Mike, you don't do that.
I do not.
Okay.
But I should. And, there's other things in life too, like clean sheets.
Yeah.
I mean, hotels don't change the sheets now. After COVID or whatever, they just stopped. Now you have to request to have
right. It's not just
day.
Guaranteed every day. Right. Yeah.
Right. They're saving money or whatever. But clean sheets are always great.
Yeah.
Nothing better than right before you go to bed, taking a shower and getting into a bed that has fresh, clean sheets that were dried on a clothesline outside your house.
Okay.
I know a lot of people, younger people now, have never experienced that because clotheslines are kind of a thing from the past. But boy, you get in that bed, it smells so fresh, you sleep like a baby.
Younger people, like you grew up in the days of drying your sheets out on a line. Yeah, I'm sure your mother did. I'm sure your mother did. But it's not like dryers were invented, when you were in your 20s, all right?
No, but I mean, I still experience that now. It's hard to find clothespins.
What about brushing your teeth, Mr. Dentist? Is that a good feeling?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
You wouldn't believe how many people would say to me, when they get their teeth cleaned, oh, it feels so good.
Oh, it does. I agree.
Like somebody, I don't know, it scratched your itch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just scratched your itch. But there are a lot of things like that. And starting off a trip with a good feeling like that, that's the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. It was funny. You were talking earlier about, one way to avoid getting robbed while you're sleeping is to just not sleep. And
right.
Here, Jason was talking about how when he and his wife started going, yeah, that was their plan. But now that you're part of the older set, yeah, you gotta sleep sometime. So
yep, that's why the casinos are dead in Laughlin at night, Mark.
Yep, all us old guys. Yeah, what are you talking about? Midnight? I've never heard of such a thing.
Yeah. Oh.
All right, let's hear from Will.
Hey, Mark and Dr. Mike. This is Will, formerly from Kansas-Oklahoma border. Now it's Will from Wyoming. Got some exciting news that I guess I'll shed a little light on the Oklahoma Annie situation as I've played table games at about 12 to 15 casinos. When I still lived there, yeah, usually all casinos, if you have a player's card, you can play with that player's card. They don't charge you the Annie on pretty much any of the table games. There might be a few that do. I usually avoided those. Most of the bigger ones do not. So some interesting news for me here in Wyoming now. I moved here shortly after COVID started. And that entire time, there has not been a casino in the state with craps. It was pretty disappointing. I was actually having to drive to South Dakota, which is about a 4.5-hour drive, to play craps. And now Wind River Casino has craps again. So I'm going to play for my first time in the state of Wyoming after living here for 3 years. I'll possibly call back with a trip report, but very exciting for me because it's about an hour-and-a-half drive instead of the 4.5 to 5. So love the show. You guys do a great job. You guys have a great day, and see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Will. Well, hopefully you had some good luck up there at Wind River.
Yes. Wyoming's beautiful, too.
Yeah. We mentioned, on a previous episode, Mike, you had heard from that truck driver that you'd met at Joe Worth about, you have a player's card, they'll waive the ante at Oklahoma casinos. It sounds like there are a lot of ways to get around the ante, especially if you're a regular player. So, definitely take advantage of that if you can. And one easy way is maybe to just get a player's card.
Right. Well, and that's nice to hear, too, for people
that
who
is good.
have to go to Oklahoma casinos, like you live in northern Texas and you're kind of stuck.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, if you go enough, I'm sure they'll waive that, which is great because that's such a ripoff.
Yeah, it is too bad. All right, next call.
Hey, guys, it's Mike in Florida, and I've become quite the cruise addict, and my wife and I have gone on several Royal Caribbean cruises out of the Florida ports down here. Well, last week we went to a new venture altogether and went out of Seattle actually, to Alaska, and of course hit the casino every time, and I've now accrued some nice casino benefits by playing in each one of these. But the reason for this call is a story that was a true first for me in 20 years of playing craps, and I'm curious if you guys have ever seen this. It would probably be something you'd only see at a casino with newer dealers, but here we are on the cruise ship, and the dice get rolled, and the point comes out at 6, so the dealer across from me, on my end of the tub, marks the point 6. A couple minutes later, rolls are being made, and an 8 comes out, and the stick man immediately yells out, "Winner 8." And everyone kind of looks puzzled on my end, and we look down on the other end, and it turns out the dealer there has the 8 marked. Now, I thought it was a 6, but the stick man had it as an 8, and obviously the dealer on the other end of the table thought it was an 8 as well, so we're not sure who was right or wrong here. Rather than try to go to the cameras and make a big thing about it, they kind of look at the boss, and the boss goes, "Stickman called it 8. It's an 8. Well, that wound up working out very nicely for me because I had $60 on the 8 in addition to my pass line bet at what I thought was a 6 with odds behind the line. So when the stick man called it out 8, I wound up getting paid twice, both for my point line win and for having $60 on the 8, because as the dealer confirmed with the boss, I have to pay what's on the table, right? And he said, "Yep, pay it as you see it." So have you guys ever seen that one before? Because that was definitely a first for me. Thanks for everything you guys do. It's fun to listen to this as we get ready for more trips, and keep up the good work.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Yes. So we have seen many times. A dealer on one side marking a different point than the dealer on the other side. Now, usually it is caught before the
almost
pass line
immediately
bet is resolved. Yeah. Sometimes maybe a few rolls go by, but it's like, wait a second, what's the point? Somebody will notice and it'll get moved.
I've never seen it go to conclusion.
You don't think so,
the
Mike?
Point was hit.
In all the times we've played, I
don't.
I want to say that it has happened. And when it has happened, there's been a consensus. Everybody's kind of agreed, no, the point was 10 or whatever. It's like everybody agreed and just one of the guys was wrong. Yeah. I might be wrong. I can't think of specifics.
Yeah, that might be. Now that you say that, but I've never heard of them paying off. I mean, like, oh yeah, that side had 10 marked. Okay, we'll pay the 10, but
not different. Well, I'm glad to hear that they handled the situation that Mike was in the way that they did. Yeah, I agree. It's like, no, don't go to the camera. It was an 8. Everybody's going to be happy. Sure, Mike had an additional bet on the 8, had a place bet and a pass line bet with odds on it. I love hearing stories like that. Like, just, okay, maybe one of us messed up, one of the dealers messed up. Let's just move on, right? We're getting the gambler's money. eventually. Let's not make a big deal about this. Let's please everybody, and then we won't have disgruntled gamblers stopping.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, in all of life, Mark, it should be like that. Every human interaction should end with, let's just make everyone happy and move on.
Okay, well, when possible, I agree with you, Dr. Mike.
I mean, I think that'd be the good way. Now, it's hard to make everyone happy.
Oh, is that right?
So, but that's the way it should be.
Okay. I think most people will agree with you, Dr. Mike. I think you'll make most people happy by taking that angle.
Just move on. How about just move on?
All right. Yeah, let's just move on. Next call.
Hi, guys. Just listening to a few of the past episodes, and you're talking about blind gamblers. I had a story from about 20, 25 years ago on a cruise ship. There was this blind guy all by himself playing craps. He was mainly a don't player. Actually, he might have only been playing to don'ts. But he would stand right next to the dealer. The dealer would help him with his bets. He'd tell him what he wanted. But the craziest part, he would stand there and cheer and clap and say, "Come on, 7. Let's go, 7. 7, 7, 7," the whole time as loud as he could. So, of course, everybody else hated him, but he couldn't see our expressions. So that was pretty cool. And then I just got back from a cruise on the Norwegian Escape. A little disappointed about the table limits for a cruise ship. $25 craps tables. They kept saying they have enough dealers. Didn't play much to the last day. Just, I didn't want to blow all my money and be sad all week. But actually managed to do pretty well. Made $1,000. My wife, who's very conservative, played and did even better than I did on a higher limit table than she would ever play at, just because she had no choice. Even with the blackjack, they had a lot of $25, $50 tables. Didn't seem like a lot of people were playing them. In my experience, cruises are generally a bunch of people on vacation, not really a ton of heavy gamblers on there. There are some, of course, but most of the time it's just people who want to dabble in gambling and just want to have fun. But didn't really have the opportunity, I would say, because the table limits are so high. Anywho, still had fun and loved the podcast.
Yeah, he makes a good point there, right? It's too bad the minimums are that high because there are probably plenty of people on board who didn't take the cruise so that they could gamble. It's just that gambling is one of the options while they're there. It's not like going to a hotel casino. If you're making a trip to a hotel casino, you're probably going to gamble. Right. But if you're going on a cruise ship that happens to have a casino, well, you may not be interested in gambling at all. So, I'm surprised at those high minimums.
Well, to play devil's advocate here, there are a lot of things on a cruise ship, like excursions and stuff when the cruise stops, that are very expensive, really. But you do it because maybe you like that activity. Like you're in Alaska, you'll stop at a place and there'll be, you can go fishing. Yeah. But it's super expensive.
Yeah.
But, you do it because you like to fish, and other people don't like to fish. They don't do it. They do another excursion. So, the casino is kind of one of those things, too. It's if you're really into casino, we have one. The limits are going to be high.
But, he was saying that a lot of people weren't playing. So in your example, maybe a lot of people are going on the fishing excursion. So it's worth it to them to charge a lot. But if, nobody's at the tables, I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not in charge.
I went on a fishing excursion on Alaska cruise, and because I like to fish, but I would never do it again. It was way too expensive.
Wow.
And it was really catered to people who didn't know how to fish.
Oh, right? Okay. Yeah, right.
They get a fish on the line and then just hand it to you to reel in. It's like, okay, well, that's, So it's just another thing to do on the cruise ship.
Well, there you go. All right. Last call.
Hi there, this is Aaron from Miami and Paul from New Orleans, and we are buddies who gamble together out in Colorado during the summer. We perform out here at an orchestra classical music festival, but I taught Paul how to play craps, and we like to go up to Black Hawk to gamble, and we'll have a question for you about buying in during a roll, but we want to tell you about our awesome day today.
First, we parked at the Monarch Casino because they recently redid it. Beautiful. Walked through, and then we started playing at the Lodge Casino, $10 minimum, and we proceeded to get sucked out pretty quickly on some just choppy rolls. I was down 300 plus. Aaron, I think you were down 200 plus. We walked over to the Ameristar where we had some bonus chips. We play there quite often. And the tables were all $15 tables. And I sat down while you were waiting for an ultimate. Yeah. And I bought in the middle of a roll, and someone had already hit a point, so there was a new point, and I bought in. And it hit another point, and then my buddy Aaron came over, and he bought in.
With my measly remaining 100 and change. But we had a shooter, well, I made 3 points, but then the next shooter made like 7 or 8 points, and he hit the all tall small. And there was a woman who bought in for $100 on the alls, and they paid her $17,000 plus for that. And we were so excited to get our 170 whatever. I don't know if they pay 175 to 1 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But anyway, we both cashed out after I was playing 3 or 4 times the odds behind the point. So I was making good money on my odds. But I cashed out of almost $800 or $900 in Paul.
I was about $600, so it was a really good win. The question would be, when I bought in the middle of someone's roll after they had rolled a point, is that a no-no? Because I was getting some seriously bad looks from the roller, even though after I bought in, he proceeded to hit a few numbers and also rolled a point. He 7'd out, though, on a come-out roll and lost the bonus.
So why did he hit 7 out? He just hit 7 on a come-out roll.
Yeah. Anyways, we're new listeners to you guys, first-time callers. Love your podcast. Thank you so much.
Oh, wait, but also you didn't tell them about how he yelled at you.
Well, we'll leave that out 3 minutes. Bye.
All right. Good. Thanks for the call. Yeah. Seasoned craps players know that the etiquette is you don't buy in the middle of somebody's roll. That is when they're trying to make a point that they've already established. Now, Dr. Mike, you and I try to abide by that etiquette, but if a shooter makes a point and it's the come out roll, then we go ahead and buy in. We think that's okay.
Because I think that's okay. There's a delay there.
Right. So. Now, that etiquette, though, might be changing because of the all small tall. The all small tall works the whole time. It's not off on the come out roll. So if a 7 does come on the come out roll, the all small tall lose. They all lose. And so there is now kind of that superstition, again, that when somebody buys in, 7's going to be the next roll. So we might be moving towards an etiquette where, you don't buy in the middle of anybody's roll, even if it's the come-out roll. You got to wait for a new shooter. Now, I don't think I'm going to abide by that because you could be there forever if you could catch somebody on a hot roll. But, yeah, that is kind of changing. So, Paul, even though you got some dirty looks, if it's a come-out roll, to me, that's like, okay, that's a time to buy in. Kind of like you said, Dr. Mike, there's a break. A come-out roll, as things are being paid off, and a lot's going on. So there's a lot of time between.
There's a lot
rolls,
of stuff going on, especially if the point was 8 and a hard 8 rolled, right?
Hell yeah!
You got to pay the line. You got to pay the hard 8s that people bet. I mean, there's a bunch of. Then you got to get all the bets that are coming in for the come-out roll. And that kind of that's a good time to buy in, I think.
Yeah. So I'm going to continue to do that. But you could see somebody, oh gosh, all we need is a 6. All we need is a 6. I don't know. If I actually saw that they were really close, what do you think, Dr. Mike? If we got up there and they were one number away from the all, do you think you'd still hold back?
No.
Okay.
Because do you know how many times I've been one number away from the all and then points made and then it's a 7 out on the come out?
A lot?
A ton. I don't think it matters. Everyone has their own superstition. Now, like we said before, the best thing in the world would be if we could please everyone and then move on. But we can't please everyone. So somebody's going to be mad that I bought in and other people aren't going to care. So I'm just going to do what I think is right.
Yeah. And again, this is all etiquette. There's no rule. The casino will give you chips at any point, right?
Yeah.
And
I kind of like casinos that when someone does buy in, they don't stop the game.
Do you like that, though?
I mean, they just keep going. You just can't make your bets. But the box man will be counting out the money and the game still goes on. And then, after the next number's rolled, they give you your money.
Yeah, I don't know. If you're buying in on a come-out roll and they do that, and you don't have your chips yet, and then they establish a point, 6 is the point.
Yeah.
I kind of wish they would wait so that I could get some money out. That's the whole point of me buying in on the come-out roll is to get the chips before the dice are out again.
Well, I think, Mark, you and I both, it boils down to we like a fast game. We like it to keep going and moving on. And, anything that slows the game down kind of irritates me.
I agree, but, the come out roll always slows the game down.
Right. But that's why I'm saying that's the time to buy, right? It's going to be slowed down anyway.
But that's okay. But I'm saying
you buying in is not going to stop that.
Okay. But I'm saying
I know what you're saying. You don't like it because you can't. The reason you bought in is to make your bets, and then you can't make your bets because you don't have any chips yet.
Anyway, we do want to emphasize this is really based on superstition.
Right.
Because there's nothing about buying in that makes a 7 more likely to come out on the next roll than any other roll. But there you go. Etiquette.
Yeah, and then you buy in, and then the next roll's a 6, and the all's made. You can just turn to the guy and say, what happened? What went wrong?
Yeah, you should be rude about it if that happens.
What went wrong? Yeah. A 6 was rolled.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Just like when you need the 12 and the next shooter, their first roll is a 12.
Yep, hop it.
Yeah.
Easy money.
Just look at the last shooter and just lay into him. See how he did that?
I'm going to run a simulation where all I do is hop the last number that was rolled. Oh, if a 4 comes up, I'll hop the 4. Oh, next roll's a 3, I'll hop the 3. See how that works.
See how you do.
I'll see how I do. I think I'll actually not do that and save some time.
Well, you might do okay. I mean, 7 comes up, hop a 7.
That's right.
Have a good chance of hitting it.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We want to thank some people for some recurring donations. Robin from Anytime Gambling, Brian and Sarah, Nathan, Brian Dancer, Josh, and the boys over at Crap Vegas. Thank you very much for those donations. We also got a donation from listener Eamon. He said, a tip for your tweets. Well, that's very nice. Our tweets aren't that good, to be honest with you. I don't think so. Thank you. We also
we'll have to return that to you.
Yeah, we might return that. We also got a donation from Frank. Karma donation for upcoming trip to Reno Sparks. Oh, very good.
Nice.
Have good luck there. Also a donation from Jason. Karma for my 21st birthday trip, taking my nephew to Circa in Vegas. I'm sure he'll love the property and the perks. I'll leave it to Karma to decide if a winning first trip gambling-wise is a good thing or not. Thanks. Love the podcast, Jason. Well, it's not a good thing, Jason, but we still hope you win. So, good luck. Also a donation from our buddy Kevin. Karma donation for a trip to Ontario with my wife for her birthday. Also, is it a dick move to hop the 7s when the dice leave the table? Take care. Oh, that's a good question. I don't think it, it's funny because even though it's a superstitious bet, a lot of people would say, dice go off the table.
Yeah,
hop. Maybe as long as you don't say the word 7, like hop big red, something like that. No, because you see people do that all the time, and I don't see people getting mad at it unless they say the word 7.
Right, unless they say the word 7. I never do it because then, why not hop the 7 on every roll?
Yes, that's
right.
That's right. Yes, I agree with you.
Now, people turn their bets off. I know you've done that. And I mean, that's fine, I guess. You want to turn your bets off because then why not turn your bets off every roll? 7's the most common number.
Maybe I will do that same time. All right.
Whatever makes you happy.
That's right.
I guess.
I'm going to go 54 across, and they're always off.
And congratulations, Kevin. Hope you have a good time.
Yeah, have a good trip. And finally, a donation from Raina, whose email we read earlier. Karma donation for a trip in October. Well, good luck. Hey, be sure to check out our TV listings showing all the gambling-related shows coming up within the next 2 weeks at youcanbetonthat.com/TV-listings. And our list of gambling-related movies at youcanbetonthat.com/movies. We'd love to hear from you. Call our voicemail hotline at 951-292-4377. That's 9512-WAGERS.
9512-WAGERS.
Or you can email us at youcanbetonthat@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at YouCanBetOnThat and on Facebook at facebook.com/YouCanBetOnThat. Finally, please go to your favorite podcast app and write a review of the show. We love getting your feedback. Dr. Mike, what do you have for us today?
Well, what do you think is going to get more reaction? My theory that the world has gotten more dangerous as time has progressed during our lifetime?
Okay.
Or is it going to be things that make you happy, like a nice clean shave or or a fresh haircut.
I will say that I'm sure there are plenty of people who agree with you, Dr. Mike, that think the world's more dangerous now.
Dangerous, yeah. Well, you know what? Let me just get back to that just for 1 second. Let's both agree on this. There are a lot more people in the world now, and there's a lot more ways to communicate.
Yes.
So the perception will be that the world is more dangerous because there's probably a greater number of dangerous people, and we hear about it more frequently than we used to.
It is easier to hear about it. Absolutely, yeah. I will agree with you there.
We'll make that distinction. So in a way, it feels like the world is more dangerous.
Yeah, communication is really big. I remember this was actually a few years ago even. Somebody was saying, oh gosh, they sure make a lot more incredible baseball plays now than they did in the old days.
Right.
And it was, really the reason is because everything's recorded now, right? Every play. Back in, the 50s and 60s, you'd be lucky to have a film of a play from a game, right? So, hey, how come this is happening more now? Well, it's not happening more now. We're just able to find out about it more. We're able to witness it more now. So I will agree with you. There are some terrible things that happen in this world, and it seems like more of them are happening, but maybe it's only because we're more aware of them now because of how many ways there are to communicate.
Right. But there are some that are generated by technology that we have now.
Well, sure, you can use something
online
easy,
stuff.
Right? Online stuff. I was going to use the atomic bomb as an example, right?
Well,
200 years ago, you couldn't wipe out all mankind, and that could happen now. So I'm glad we're ending the show on a high note.
Well, I'll end it on a high note. To the person who said there are more amazing sports plays now, see, they weren't able to see like Willie Mays play, or I saw him make amazing catches. There were a lot of great players then. You just, like you said, you just didn't see it because we couldn't.
Yeah.
We grew up in the generation where there was one baseball game on TV a week.
Yeah, it's true. Right.
Right. Hey, it was the Saturday game of the week.
I will say that athletes today, I think, are better. There's more ways for them to become better athletes. What they, nutrition, we know more about nutrition. We know more about exercise and, that kind of
training is different.
Right. So,
and people in general are bigger. If you look at statistics, people are bigger now than they were, over time because we found ways to be healthier and stuff like that. So the world's constantly changing, but hopefully one thing that is not changing, Mark, is that we will always enjoy our recreational gambling.
Agreed, Dr. Mike. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Good night.
Oh, Adam, the installation guys called. They can meet you at 9 tomorrow.
Okay, great. Oh, no. That's not going to work. We need to buy my lottery tickets at 9. That's my lucky time.
How is it lucky if you've never won?
Every time I don't win, I'm building up my luck. That's how it works.